Hey, it's Nate. Welcome back to another episode of the Redeemed Man Podcast. I'm so excited that you would join us today. God is doing an amazing work in the lives of men. We are seeing so many men sign up for our small groups, find encouragement and support from one another. Just today, I had the opportunity to talk with a guy who was hearing from his wife that she wanted a divorce, and he called back the next day and was just like, I don't know what has happened, but it's a God thing, and she is saying no longer does she want a divorce. She has totally changed her attitude, and it is just so exciting to be a part of life change that's happening in men's lives. If you've not signed up for one of our groups or consider one of our groups, check it out online at theredeemed.com so that you can join us and be a part of a community of men who's encouraging one another, providing a safe space so that guys can share their challenges, their hurts, and also their victories over so much in life that can pull us down. Today, I am thrilled to have with us Drew Jackson. Drew, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for letting me be on.
I want to share a quick intro of Drew, a little bit about him. He serves as the cattle director with his wife at Big Oak Ranch in Alabama, overseeing all aspects of horse, cattle, and pasture land operations. Together, they bring the ranch to Big Oak, the ministry providing a safe, loving, and nurturing home for abused, abandoned, and neglected kids. Drew and his wife, Sissy, are parents to 3 boys and have a passion for the outdoor activities. Since joining Big Oak Ranch in February of 22, Drew and Sissy have embraced the mission of providing love and care for children in need. Their work on the ranch not only supports the ministry's physical needs, but also reinforces its spiritual mission of creating a Christ-centered family environment for children they serve. Drew, we're so thankful for what you and your wife do at Big Oak Ranch. And today, I would love it if you just start out by talking a little bit about the ministry of Big Oak, because a lot of people here, maybe in the Georgia or our listening audience across the country, has not heard of Big Oak Ranch. So tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Okay. Yeah. Well, actually, this is our 50th anniversary this year. Since 1974, we've been a home for abandoned, abused, neglected, orphaned kids, and a Christian home at that. And so what that looks like for us, it's not groundbreaking, it's not revolutionary. We go back to what God says family ought to look like, and we'll put a godly man and a godly woman in a home, give them a van and 6 to 8 boys or girls, and say go do life. Show them what it looks like to be a Christian family. I've learned that normal is very subjective. You know, we all grow up in whatever we grow up in, and normal, whatever we see every day is normal to us, even if it's not normal everywhere. Right. So, you know, we try to give them as close to a normal Christian family experience as possible, and the end goal is to give them something to emulate, that they can leave here and go have generational change, right? Go do family a different way. All of our kids are amazing. Let me say up top, a lot of people think, I don't know if it's like cinema, I'm not sure what it is, but there's a couple of stereotypes that people, when people hear children's homes, they think 2 things. One, we're all in a giant room with a bunch of bunk beds. That's not what it is at all.
They've watched Annie too many times.
Yeah, exactly. And they also think, and maybe it's convenient. Maybe it's more convenient to not have to look at the hard truths of it, to say, well, I mean, they should have acted better. They're just there doing their time on the oak. And it's not like that at all. Our kids are amazing, and they come from some of the hardest places you can imagine. Some of the stories will absolutely rip your guts out, and that's the model that they have to go do life. And so we're trying to turn that on its head. Ultimately, the goal here is to show them hope, and we believe that hope is in Jesus Christ, and that's it. And we want to introduce them to Him. We're going to spend all the time that we can showing them Jesus every day. And every once in a while we'll talk about it. We like to say that all the time. Everything, man, let our lives just show Him to these kids in our relationships inside this community, in our relationships with our spouses, how we interact with the families and at school and in out in the community and those kind of things. And for 50 years, that model has worked. Our oldest boy is 68 years old. Wow. This year. And the generational change that's come out of this place, man, it's unbelievable. It's the honor of my life, my wife's life, to be able to be in this ministry. It's the most fulfilling thing we've ever done, for sure. To see life change in these kids, it's just incredible. And so, at the end of the day, that's what we're after: is generational change, and hope.
About how many kids are currently a part of the ministry?
Currently, we're serving 160, 170. Wow. Right there. We just got several new kids in the last 10 days or so. So that number, that's why I'm like, I don't think I know. But that's where we are currently. To this point, we've served over 2,500 kids at this place, and so.
And for guys who are listening that maybe are from Alabama or maybe live in a different place but have a passion for Alabama football or football in general, there is a connection to football that Big Oak has, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, so our founder, Mr. John Kroll, he played for the Bear. He's got a national championship ring, and he deferred professional football to come start this place. When he was going into his senior year, he sat down with Coach Bear Bryant and had a conversation with him about what his aspirations were. And he said, I think I'm going to go ahead and go play pro ball and then use that money to start this ranch that I want to start. And Coach Bryant told him if he wasn't willing to marry professional football, he doesn't need to do it. He just needs to go start that ranch. And so that started the ball rolling right there. A couple of his teammates were kind of the first investors to this place, I like to say. And one of them is a man, Mr. John Hanna, and he's on the cover of Sports Illustrated under the heading "Greatest Lineman to Ever Play." I mean, he's a pretty big deal, but he gave his signing bonus with the New England Patriots in '74 for Mr. John to help start this place. At that point, I think it was $31,000, maybe it was $34,000, and he came back and spent the day. He's a cattleman at this point, and so he came out and spent the day with me not too many months ago. But it's really fun to see what his initial $34,000 investment has turned into at this point, And so for 41 years, John Kroll was at the helm, and his son Brody Kroll, who absolutely in this part of the world, he was a celebrity. Quarterback at Alabama. He was pre-Saban, so he doesn't necessarily get all the hype that he should, but quarterback at Alabama, went on to play in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then had a cup of coffee with the Arizona Cardinals there for a time, and when my wife and I first, we were sensing a call to Big Oak Ranch, and of course you have all kinds of questions and trying to figure out what's what. And one of the biggest questions that I had, and I'll say this now because he's not here, I really like to bust his chops, really, but one of my biggest questions was, Brody's the CEO, kind of running everything now, and what does a retired NFL quarterback even really do? You show up once a month, we go and take some pictures, we go more than most is what he does. He and Kelly, his wife, the way they lead this place, the way they're pushing, the way they're chasing vision, the way they're propelling this mission forward, it is inspiring. And for anybody that might be wondering, he certainly doesn't have to. They could be on a beach somewhere, hanging out, doing whatever. The sacrifices they make to make sure if if we can call it an industry, it's shrinking at a crazy rate, and the issues are getting bigger and bigger. There's 3 million kids in this nation that don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. And we could, as an organization, and Brody certainly could, as the leader of it, say, I mean, we got a good thing going here. We'll keep putting what kids we can in these homes, and that'll be good. That'll be enough. And for him, it's not enough. He says, we have got to be the tip of the spear. We've got to go tackle this problem head on. We got to go make sure that these kids have a place to sleep, a place to eat, a place to live, a place where they can find hope. And it is, I'm telling you, it's inspiring. There are tough days that you look for, all right, I got to have some help today. Yeah. And, man, he's just leading it so well. I just can't. I can't push that point hard enough. Well,
it's clear by listening to you that you have a great respect for him, and that you see his gifts of leadership and his passion for the kids that you guys are caring for.
Absolutely. And I would say, too, I mean, he was pretty salty at the Q spot. There's no doubt about it. He could spin it. But watching him now, there's no doubt what he was born to do is what he's doing right now. And so, yeah, it's a fun thing to be a part of, and it's always exciting.
Well, you mentioned a little bit about when you and your wife were wrestling with the call to come there. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your journey to be a part of Big Oak?
Yeah, for sure. It was kind of a long one. You know, isn't it funny how you can look back, like in the rear view, you can see where God was ordering your steps from way back. You can't tell it like in the journey at all. You can't even put one or two of them together. And but anyway, we can trace it way back. But kind of when we started talking about, hey, we want to make an impact. We want to be a family that makes impact. We want our lives to make impact, and it not just be about the Jacksons. We don't just want to be doing things for us. I think we had 2 boys at the time, and Sissy was a school nurse. She had moved out of the hospital into school nursing. The schedule was so much better. And in that school nursing, you know, you have these, like I was talking about normal, you know, you have your idea of normal, and you have your idea of what family looks like. And I just always thought that, hey, everybody's mom checks your homework, washes your clothes, fixes your dinner, you know, make sure I just assumed that's what it was like. That's what my mom did, and so that's what everybody's mom does, right? And when she got in that school system and had access to so many kids every day, and she started to see the needs that were out there, and she would come home every night just weeping, telling me these stories about these kids. And so at that time, I was in the oil business. She was doing a school nurse thing, but she was also in real estate, and we were flipping houses on the side and we had a little bit of everything going on. And so the conversation started of like, we had a little farm there in Aniana, and the conversation started of like, well, what could we do for these kids? How could we build a big building out in the pasture and start, you know, taking on foster kids or whatever it is? And we had gotten involved with a church in Aniana there, and we were pretty heavily involved in the youth group. And it was real clear. It had started to become clear to me the impact that my high school football coach had made on me. And I think a lot of us have these experiences where you have somebody. For me, it was a man who was not my father, who only had the task of making me a better football player, but instead took it upon himself to put in so much extra time and effort to make me show me what a godly man looks like, a godly husband, godly father, a warrior. He's the first one that showed me that warrior and Christian are not mutually exclusive, right? So you kind of have this. We have a good man, and then those that are good at being a man, but they don't really mesh up. You know, when I was a kid, that was my either you follow all the rules and you do things well and you're super meek, or you're like hard charging, you know. But I'd never seen those two come together, and so anyway, he showed me what that was, and then a few years after the fact, you know, in the moment, you're like, well, yeah, I mean, he's pushing me to excellence, but it's obviously so I'll get paid to play football for the rest of my life, and that didn't happen. And so you look back and you wonder, like, okay, well, I'm not fool enough to not see that this man was put in my life to plant seeds for something that I'm supposed to carry on, you know. So that started kind of bubbling up inside of me of like, no, I need to carry the torch on. Yeah. But I was not ready for that because I really liked my career. I really liked closing deals. I really liked chasing this success. And I wasn't ready to give that up. And so I kept trying to push it off to the corner. Now, Sissy was ready to go. She was ready to build whatever we needed to build and take on as many, bring us all the babies, you know. And so I'll say when it really turned, we got invited. This was during the COVID year, and so a lot of things were online, and we got invited to do a marriage conference virtually. And Pastor Craig Rochelle was the main speaker. And I mean, I said, yeah, we were doing, let me back up a little bit. We were going to church. We were checking I was checking all the Christian boxes, you know, as long as it didn't get in the way of my stuff. And so we're doing this virtual marriage conference, which I saw there's no risk in that, right? We're sitting on the couch. It's just me and Sissy. It's no big deal. We're going to take this in. She's going to be super pleased that I was wanted to do this marriage conference. Everything's going to be great. And this man looked through that TV screen right into my soul and challenged me as a man, as a husband, on how I lead my family. Yeah. And it changed me that night. That challenge changed me, which is what this podcast is all about, right? Yeah. Yeah. Men growing men, challenging men, helping each other. And man, it was so powerful, and it changed everything about how we did family that night, how I led my family, what kind of husband I was to my wife, because up to that point, I'm super embarrassed to say, I was doing I'm checking all the Christian boxes. I'd never prayed over my wife one day. At that point, we'd been married 6 years. I'd never prayed over my wife one time. That blows me away to say that, you know, I was just kind of going through the motions and stuff. And anyway, that's what the challenge was, by the way, was, hey, if you've never prayed over your wife, over your family, start tonight. Yep. Start tonight. And I thought, how dare you say that in front of my wife? I'm going to have to do this now. And I did. And it's because he challenged me, and it changed everything, because that was a whole new level of intimacy that we've never gotten into, and praying for and over each other and together. day by day, that changed the trajectory of our family. We moved several degrees in that moment. Yeah. And and then from there it started. So that marriage conference opened up. Hey, maybe we'll go check out this church. Like, if this church put on this marriage conference, and going to check out that church put us in some new relationships, the people we had not met before, and these people kind of led us to the ranch. We grew up 45 minutes away from Big Oak Ranch, and we didn't know what it was about. And so here we are, still trying to figure out how we can help kids and be impactful, and we're starting to walk our faith out like we never have before. And in the midst of like counting our 3 boys, one night after service, we saw a family that was counting theirs as well, except they got to 9 before they stopped. And looking at the family, you could tell, hey, these are not all their kids. Like, what are they doing? And in the moment, instead of doing anything rational, like saying, hey, we're the Jacksons, we'd like to know what you're doing, we just kind of like stared at them, as they walked off.
It's hard not to when you see a family with 9 kids. And, it stands out.
Yeah, so my wife ran inside and went and asked the pastor's wife. Actually, she was like, "Hey, there's a group that just walked by. We're so dumb. We just stood there and stared at them, but we need to contact them somehow. Can you give me?" So I got the contact information. It ended up they were a house family at Big Oak Girls Ranch, and all of those kids were residents here at Big Oak Ranch. And so we developed a relationship with them and came out and checked things out, and they were like, you know what, we got to take you to see the boys ranch too. We have 2 separate ones, by the way, that are separated by about 45 minutes for obvious reasons. Like, you can tell them they're brother and sister all you want, but we need to separate things a little bit. So we went to see the boys ranch, and man, like, God's presence was palpable. Okay, the whole day we're out here, and I'm still wrestling with my career, but we're here on site, and I am like, we're supposed to be here. And so we started the process at Big Oak Ranch. When you fill out an application, it is for house parenting. I mean, there's just not that many different opportunities here. We're raising kids, and so we went through that process of the application of house parents, and we did some Zoom calls, and we did some online interviews. Luckily, I can tell you the process for being a house parent at Big Oak Ranch is extensive. And so we went through all of that, and we had come and visited a couple of times. At that time, our 3 boys were very small, and we just couldn't figure out exactly, there are several opportunities on how you can serve kids. They're all basically house parents, but in several different avenues, and we couldn't get a piece about like where that spot was, and how do we serve, when do we serve, could there be, just couldn't get a piece about it, couldn't figure it out. And so months rocked on with this, having conversations, trying to find our spot, and we just couldn't. Now, I'm still secretly, I'm kind of like, no, I know we're supposed to be there, but like this works out pretty well for me because I get to keep my job and be like, oh well, we just can't get a piece. All right. So I remember distinctly, it was on a Thursday that we decided, hey, the reason we're not getting a piece about this is because we're supposed to be involved. We're not supposed to be there. We're going to be supporters. We'll give to this organization, and we'll be involved as heavily as we can in that avenue. That's what it's supposed to be. All in agreement? Yes, everybody's in agreement. So Thursday, that's what we're going to do. Now, back to these relationships at church. on Sunday, I get to serve on the worship team, and as we're preparing for services and things, there's opportunities kind of backstage and stuff to just fellowship, get to know one another. And one of those individuals on the team serves at a high level at the ranch, and I'd only ever seen him in Zoom calls and stuff. We'd never really connected. There'd been some interview type questions and things like that. And so anyway, that day he really got to the nuts and bolts of who Sissy and I are, our loves and what the Jackson family is about and things we had done in the past. And he said, "Oh my gosh, it's y'all." And I was like, what do you mean it's us? And he said, I don't know how to explain this. Our cattle director resigned last night, and Brody doesn't even know this yet. I hadn't told him. I don't know what I was going to tell him, and now I don't have to. It's y'all. And I was like, that's so flattering, but it's not us for sure. It's not us. We're wildly underqualified. I promise, it's not. It's cool, but it's not. And so as the day rocked on, every time I saw him, he kept saying, it's y'all. And I was like, no, it's not. And matter of fact, it got to the point I was like, it's not us, and I'll give you 5 reasons why it's not us. And one of those reasons was I was still under contract at work. A contract that I couldn't get out of. I just couldn't. And so I was like, look, man, I think it was 11 more months in that at that time. And so I was like, it's not us. Don't go ahead and be looking, whatever you got to do. It's not us. That was Sunday. On Tuesday, our vice president called me. I was on the road. He called me and said, "Hey, you come back through Birmingham, I need you to stop by the office." That's not a good, in context, that's not what you want. And I was like, what is up here? This doesn't sound good at all. And so the gist of our conversation was he had changed our pay plan, our commission plan, and was calling to tell me how awesome it was going to be. We're going to love it. Need to take it home, show it to Sissy. That obviously it voided my current contract, but we could figure that out all later. We'll draw another one up, but and I'm like, what did you just say? And he was like, it's fine, we'll draw up another one. So anyway, I called Sissy and told her, and she immediately just started weeping. And I called Kyle and said, hey, this just happened, and maybe it is us. And so that just started, we came out and visited a couple of times, checked things out. And it's easy to see now that I think everything up to this point in my life has uniquely prepared me for this position, and her also, and us as a couple. I think the couples piece is very important here. We want to show all of our kids a super strong presence of couples, strong, godly couples, doing life together. And so that's been really awesome. The opportunity and man, we're still I never ran a ranch before, these are.
Well, you look the part.
Hey, I appreciate it. Yeah. It's the hat. But these were. I had a brief rodeo career. My wife grew up. Her dad was a horse trainer. Her brother was a horse trainer. We've got elements of these things. We worked on a ranch out in Colorado for a short time, but you just had these doubts and these fears of underqualification. At this stage of the game, though, I would say so much better spot to be in than, I got it. I can, hey, we coming into this, and not only that, but stepping into full-time ministry, which I never thought that I would be in, And so you really have to lean on God. You got to be chasing Him hard, and that part. So when you first say yes to coming to something like this, my thought was, yeah, man, I got some experience in things. I know some stuff. I'll go help some kids. No, it changes you. And that's been my experience in the journey. Yeah. These kids have changed me. The experience of being here, the opportunity of being in this position, it changes you 10 times more than you can impart on anybody. And I didn't see that coming, Yeah.
I think that's the one thing people have this misunderstanding on ministry and service. Oftentimes I think people think that ministry and service means that you have to have it together and you're only offering something to somebody else.
Yeah.
In reality, whenever we serve and whenever we minister, oftentimes it is more returned to us than it ever was in what we gave away.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Well, that story, I mean, gosh, I know you say you guys didn't have the qualifications, and I can understand in some ways, but in Alabama, having been and worked at a ranch in Colorado, having the skills that you and your wife have, it definitely seems like you were talking about, God was already preparing you guys for what you're going to step into with Big Oak Ranch.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, it's easy to look back and see all of these steps. Like, you can't see it in the moment, but you look back and I can trace so many steps. What is it? Psalm 119 says, you're a lamp to my feet. I love that verse, lamp to my feet. I don't know if you're a hunter. I'm a hunter. When you go into the woods, when you use some kind of lamp, some kind of light, it's one step at a time. I'm not going to be daylight to your feet. I'm going to be a lamp, and it's one step. And part of that is, I think, if we could see the whole thing all the way out, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Number one. The second thing is, we're too little, and we don't know enough, and we just can't comprehend. We got to do it one step at a time. There's no way. And so, I love to look back and see how he was orchestrating, even before we got married, but definitely after we were married, every single piece of it to come to this point, Mm-hmm. And it's really fun to think, but what's he doing now? What are we going to look back in 10 years and see? I just said that out loud, but what do I not even see coming now? So, yeah, it's awesome.
So you've talked about growing in your faith and really a place of completely to surrender to whatever God wanted. When did your relationship with God begin? And talking a little bit about and thinking about redemption, how would you explain if somebody asked you, hey, Drew, what does redemption mean to you? Could you unpackage that a little bit about when you came to faith, and then even now what you understand redemption to be?
Yeah. So I grew up kind of, we're in this cultural Christianity part of the world.
Yeah.
So you kind of do Christian things on Sundays usually. And that's how I grew up. We went to church. But I was just there, I wasn't, it was like a social event to me, really. And so I did what a lot of us do as a young child, which I think now is pretty dangerous. But I was 12, I think, and I walked an aisle and got baptized and stuff like that. And so you think at that point, well, it's you kind of understand enough, or I understand enough to be well, I got my fire insurance, so I'm good. And salvation piece, I was like, that sounds cool. Lord piece, nah. and that wasn't even on the radar. Okay, so fast forward through high school. I was I was proud of myself in high school and doing fun things on the football field and stuff. Just thought a lot of myself, and that was my God. I think a lot of us had that kind of story, especially in the South, high school sports. But that was my God. That's what I served. That's what I worshipped. That's where my time, effort, everything went to. Because I thought that was going to be, everything. And so I went to college on a football scholarship, and I quickly realized I didn't really own it quick enough, but I realized pretty soon that I'm in a different league here. I'm not what I thought I was. I wouldn't admit that, for a couple more years, but anyway, it got to a point where football was going away. We got a new coaching staff. My God had left me, and I started doing stupid stuff, just the partying and doing stupid things that made it seem like Drew's okay though. He doesn't care. He's good, party guy, man. He's just having fun. And I was radically saved. My locker mate, who he was number 11, I was number 12, and we our term of endearment for him was Reverend. And he always had his Bible. He was always teaching Bible studies. He was always at church. He was awesome. And ultimately, he stood up on a Wednesday after practice when all of my whole world was crumbling. I just wasn't letting anybody see that. He stood up and he was like, "Hey, I'm doing a Bible study tonight, just in case any of y'all want to come." And man, that was the first time that I can say, like, I heard God say, "You better get to that," And it's like, it's one of those things where I've had a couple of moments in my life where it's like, you heard God, like audible. It's like, no, it's louder than that, And so I went to this Bible study, and everything Marquisio said was for me that night, and I was radically saved. It was October 11th, 2006, 9:03.
Love it.
Radically saved, okay, and like just super on fire for Christ. And fast forward a few more years, and it kind of plateaued, and so I say, like, it kind of restarted the engine. I'd gotten just into the pace of life, maybe, and then chasing a career that I thought success would be fulfilling. Yeah. I think everybody does, and don't hear me say, like, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination like anti-capitalist or anything. Here at Big Oak Ranch, hey, we don't get to do what it is we do without super successful people that support us, and so don't hear that at all. But for me, I was getting distracted by success. You know what I'm saying? And just chasing deals and the next thing, whatever the next thing was. And so
I don't think you can chase success. I think if you do that, that's when you fall short. I think you have to pursue a calling, and whatever that calling is where you find fulfillment. And some callings make a lot of money. Yeah. Some callings don't.
Yeah, that's right. And so I just got, kind of distracted in that, but then, getting refocused and getting involved with a group of believers that pushed us. Yeah. There was, if we're not challenging each other, holding each other accountable, and pushing forward, we're just not going to grow.
Yeah.
And so that was a big that was a huge propeller for the Jackson family. I heard a saying not that long ago, like, there's no growth in the comfort zone and there's no comfort in the growth zone. And hey, Drew Jackson doesn't just want to jump out there and do things that are uncomfortable and do things that I'm not good at, or I don't, so you got to have relationship. And then those relationships with people, they then have standing in your life to say, no, you need to step out and do that. And so that's what we found in that stage of life, and it changed everything to be able to keep taking those steps. And man, like, hey, God will just breathe on your life sometimes. God will perform miracles. God will do what God does, no doubt. But I've seen it time and time and time again. God uses people that are close to you or that you get close to make moves in your life, and giant ones. When you look back over the scope of a few years, and you're like, man, this group of men, or this man, or this church, or whatever it is, man, God has used them to speak into my life, to push me to new heights, to push me to this new challenge, to push me to leadership, and maybe that's just your wife. Maybe it's just leadership of your wife, and maybe it's leadership of a whole ministry inside of your church, or what. And so that piece, that's when it really shifted. So when you talk about redemption, I mean, there's obviously the salvation connotation of that, right? But for me, my little redneck small mind, this is the first thing that comes to mind when I hear redemption. Now, I've never pawned anything ever, but I've seen movies where people go to the pawn shop with their last, their whatever it is, you pawn it off, and they tell you have this many days right of redemption. And so when I hear that word, I see a pawn shop in my mind, and I also see like a guy that doesn't have a lot of options, but what it means to me is buy back. You can buy back what God intended originally for us. It didn't work out. It crashed in the garden. All right, and he had to find another way. And we can be bought back through Christ, but in whole. This is the part I was missing for a long time. In whole, not in part. He's not buying a piece of you back. It's the whole thing. Right. It's Sunday to Sunday. It's not just Sunday. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's every piece of your life, and it just took me. It took me a long time for that to like sink in, and I'm just super thankful, like, that I understand that, like, in my heart, I understand that now, and how that's changed how I husband and how I dad and how I run this cattle program, and what you show to these boys, and it's I'm just super thankful for that. But I don't know if that's what you were looking for.
No, that's exactly what I was looking for, Drew. I think hearing everybody's story and everybody's description of what redemption means is so unique, and so that's why we ask that question over and over again, because it's personal. Like, redemption is personal, and until you understand it in a personal way, you probably really haven't understood redemption. And so it is so much fun to ask that question and to hear responses to it. And everybody's journey looks different, and I think that's the part, again, the beauty of the body of Christ is you have people that understand redemption, and their life has huge impact early on, and then you have people that go all of their life and really have only a few years left, but they understand redemption. Like the story looks different, but for those who tasted the goodness of God, you can't help but go, man, this is so good. Like, I get to do this. I get to live out the story that God's called me to. Still has its challenges, still has its difficulties. We're in a fallen world, but there's a peace, there's a joy, there's something that's there that you can't always fully explain, especially to somebody who hasn't tasted and seen it themselves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's awesome.
So shifting a little bit to the ranch, there's a lot of people listening that have no clue what that life looks like, especially in relationship to boys and girls that are, different ages. And what is that on a kind of give us, if you can, a brief synopsis of like what would a week look like for you and your wife? What do you guys normally do, and how does that relate to the kids in the homes?
Okay, so well, first I'll tell you, like, our two primary goals with this cattle program. Number one, we're raising high quality, naturally grown beef for our family. So we're a little unorthodox because we sell nothing. Everything we produce, we eat. We've got a family of about 315 at this point, and so that's a lot of beef.
That's a lot of beef.
I'm putting 4 to 6 steers worth of beef in our freezer every single month. We will consume almost 40,000 pounds of beef this year, and so that's one side of the coin, and the other side is to help produce high quality kids, man. We're trying to make hard work cool again.
Yeah.
Work ethic is something. It was a huge part of my childhood and what Coach Niblett imparted on me, and it's just everything. And if you have nothing else, if you're the hardest worker with the best attitude, you're just gonna do great.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we're really chasing a get to, not a got to attitude, and trying to do things with responsibility, accountability, teamwork every day. You find yourself kind of early on in a career where you're in this black hole of like, well, I want this job, but you need experience.
Yeah.
But you got to have a job to get experience. But I need, it's like, it's this feedback loop.
Yeah.
And so hopefully by the end of time, we'll have a resume built of like, hey, I may not be able to computer program, but I've got 4 years experience of showing up. I got 4 years experience of being responsible and accountable with lives. These animals, they require our care. And one really cool thing that our kids really buy into is it's not just monotony and just tasks that you do. They're caring for things that care for our people. Like, right. We're eating this beef. It doesn't just disappear and go, well, I don't know, I didn't really take good care of it, but it doesn't really matter. No, it stays. We see it all the way through. So that piece, like, there's a ton of ownership for our kids, and I cared for that. This is delicious because I cared for it, because I did the things. We say all the time, small things repeated are not small things. And it fits really well in our cattle program because we're opening the same gate every day. We're feeding the same feed. We're moving. But that's for all of us, man. Strong habits are everything. And so that's something we're trying to build in is that piece and of work ethic, hard work, and pushing yourself, man, saying no to your mind. Your mind will jump up and tell you it's time to quit in a ton of, like, real quick. And when you learn to push that mute button on your mind, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard to learn how to do it. But once you do, man, your mind will cower in the corner while you go get stuff done. And so, man, I hope to equip them with that the pursuit of excellence, not for self-propulsion, but because we're so thankful for the talents and abilities that God has given us, and we want to steward them so well. We don't want to leave anything on the table. And so those are things that we push for every day in our cattle program. Our kids get home from school and they go get their blue jeans and their cowboy hat, and they come grab a saddle and a horse, and we'll go push cows around. We'll go fix fence, or we'll go feed, and we'll check the waters, and we work the horses, and all the things that you do on a ranch is what we do every day.
How many head of cattle and horses and acres do you guys manage?
We've got 98 moms right now, 41 in our feed lot, 4 bulls, and that is 230 pasture acres that we've got right now. We're trying to take in a little more. We just had a timber crew come through. Thank the Lord. But we're gonna have a little more pasture soon, and we are at capacity. Like we're totally hand to mouth every month, and so I've got to add some more to the herd, but I got to have some more acres too, and so it's a really good problem to have. But there's it's really funny the differences at the boys' ranch and the girls' ranch. Like right now we're in calving season, and the boys, they love it. They're eat up with it because they get to go rope a calf, and we're going to tag it, and we're going to do, and the girls, they see it very differently. Their tagging process is much more gentle, and they call them earrings, and they draw hearts and flowers on their tags, stuff like that. It's just very, very different. These animals, it gives purpose, and we all need that desperately. It gives activity, no doubt, but they provide so much healing that I didn't see it coming. And when we first were in the interview process for this job, we were asked about equine therapy. What do you know about equine therapy? I don't know a thing about equine therapy. And I was very self-conscious about that. I was very scared that, we're not good enough for this role. And what we found was the horses just handle the therapy. Yeah. You just put them together. And especially at the girls' ranch, it's I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Some days you come in and expecting to get a lot of things done at the ranch, and you just see a girl like hugging, just clutching a horse, maybe weeping, maybe talking to it. It's like, well, I do know something about equine therapy. I'm witnessing it right now. In a lot of cases, our kids come, and every experience they've had with somebody that looks like me, looks like Sissy, an adult in their life has only let them down, only hurt them, only abused them. So why would they listen to me? Yeah. But you can put them in contact with these horses. They can go through our horsemanship training, listen to the things that we say. This is how we respect these animals. This is how we care for them. This is how we control them. This is how we move them. This is how we use them as teammates on this ranch. And they build a relationship with these animals, and then they start to realize, you know what? Everything they said worked out. Like that worked. Yeah. And this relationship that I've got with this huge, like larger than life thing that's pretty scary is working out. Maybe I can listen to these people. And it's like, it sounds cool to say it, but to witness it, especially when you don't expect it, like you don't know it's coming, and to witness that and the healing that comes through it, and you're like, man, I just thought we were going to be an activity in the afternoon, and you get to see life change through this thing that you like. It's just amazing. And so, like, in a nutshell, that's a lot of what we do. The interactions that we get with the kids, we're proverbial aunt and uncle, right? We live on ranch, but we don't. Kids don't live in our home, so we get to see them every afternoon. In the summer, we're with them all day, every day. We have this huge horsemanship program. We'll have a big rodeo at the end of the year, so they can showcase their new talents and stuff. It's become a ranch favorite. Like, it's so much fun. Just a huge party that the kids can just show off, and that's how we get to serve and build a relationship with these kids. And in that, we get to have some really real moments of mentorship and help and spiritual development and those kind of things. But man, I can't even begin to tell you. It's the absolute honor of our lives to be part of this mission, and to be able to serve these kids, man.
Do you have a story of a young man who maybe has taken some of the skills that he's learned through that program that you could share about?
Yeah, for sure. I've got several actually, but the one that's probably top of mind, our very first head wrangler. Head wrangler is a position that you can achieve here, and you got a lot of responsibility as head wrangler, a lot of autonomy. It's a coveted position here, and it comes with some cool perks and a really nice belt buckle. What most people don't see is the getting up at 4:30 in the morning, going checking on cows, and when the storms come in, we're checking fence. There's a lot of autonomy and a lot of things that have to be done there. But our very first head wrangler, he is actually a professional cowboy with one of the largest outfits in Alabama right now. He and his wife just moved back from Kansas. He was in a huge feedlot operation out there, and they moved back, and he is living his Yellowstone dreams in North Alabama as a professional. He gets up in the morning, loads his horses, and goes and moves herd, catches sick cattle, does all the things all day, every day. And so, man, from that kid that I'm telling you about, like clutching a horse, I've never seen a horse before. What is this thing? This is really cool. This is how I care for my bride. This is how I put a roof over my family's head. It's like, wow. Like, we're definitely trying to teach these abstract lessons through the cattle program of all these attributes that we want our kids to leave and go out into the market with, but my man's like using his horsemanship skills every day to do it, and so, man, I'm so proud of him and what he's carried on, and man, I'm talking about, he epitomizes cowboy. He's living the Western lifestyle.
If he was on a feedlot in Kansas, he had a lot of cattle, I'm sure.
I think the one that he was on was about 70,000, give or take, at any time. So, yeah. Well,
shifting gears a little bit, let's take it back to your personal life. We've talked a ton about kind of your journey. We've heard a lot about, even high school and college. Today, what's a scripture that maybe is on your heart, maybe something you're reading, something that God's stirring in you, maybe it's something that, a relationship's kind of called out in you or challenged you on? Is there anything that kind of God's stirring in Drew today?
Man, several things probably. One verse that's just been on my heart for several weeks now. I keep coming back to it. I'm not exactly sure the full depth of it yet, other than like, hey, that's just good advice right there. Like, we need to follow these instructions. John 15:5 says, he says, I am the vine and you're the branch, and you can do nothing apart from me, right? So if we're like in ranch work, all right, I've got to do a lot of things with equipment. if I open up this manual and it says, hey, this thing is not going to work. If you don't put this thing in gear right here, it ain't never going to work. That's pretty important, right? And so, man, that one's been resonating with me the last few weeks. It's the one that's getting the most volume right now because it's just another reminder, like all in. I got to be all in, bought in full, not in part, in like bought back in full, And so every piece of my life, I'm trying to turn over to the Lord, right? We're in the first week of the new year, and so that's where we like to take inventory, my wife and I, what was good about the last year, what was not, what do we want to change, what habits do we need to look at, and speaking of that too, James Clear, Atomic Habits, man,
great book.
It's fantastic, and I just finished reading it again for I don't know how many times, but it's one of those that just keeps on giving. You pick up something else, and so it's not strictly spiritual, I would say, though everything has been moved around to make more room for God, more room for God to speak in our lives, more room for Him to move, more room for Him to make us more impactful. And so we've gone through and looked at all of our habits and what can we streamline and what can we get rid of. And man, you just look, just on my cell phone, I think I deleted, I don't know how many apps that are just such time sucks, that are taken away from the attention that I could give to my boys. I don't know if I said this, but I got 3 little boys, 8, 6, and 4, and they are the best version of chaos, but they are chaos, and it takes a lot of energy to run after those guys, 3 little outlaws. And so anything that's keeping me from being the dad that I need to be to them, I'm trying to eliminate. And so in that, like in the context of that verse, if I'm making that a theme, well then, all right, if I can do nothing apart from Him, then I need to be as close to Him as possible. And so that is the Jackson's theme for this year is intentionality, and we're just trying to be super intentional about everything. A lot of times I don't want to let some subconscious things go in the category of fate, just because I'm not putting them front of mind. And so everything that I can control in that lane, I'm going to, and I've never necessarily made that intentional effort before all the way across the board. And so we wrote them down, and we're chasing those things intentionally. And I do believe if you can't track it, you can't change it. And so that's been super helpful this year across all aspects of life. I'm talking about that's in workouts, in diets, in family habits, and things that we do with the boys, and all the way across the board. And it's really my workout partner in the morning loves Jocko.
Yeah.
And so his phone, he's got a shirt, the Discipline Equals Freedom shirt, his phone says it, and he's got a poster in his office and all those things. And until you lean into it, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. And then you can start to take control of these little bitty elements of your life. And once you've done a bunch of them, you realize, I've gained a ton of freedom. Yeah. And so that's kind of the space I'm in right now. And we are, as a family, for just controlling the little things, our habits, and not letting things just happen as they will, right? Yeah. We're going to take control of what we can and let God do the rest.
Well, Drew, it is an honor to have you on the show. We actually connected through my parents, and that my dad was super complimentary of you, and just in talking and conversation, you are exactly what he would be excited about. So you are a godly father. You love your wife passionately. You are serving. You're living it up, enjoying what you do, getting out there, working hard, and having a little fun along the way. So thank you so much for inspiring us today, but also encouraging us. If you're listening to this episode and you're not familiar with Big Oak Ranch, please check it out. A phenomenal ministry doing great work. If you're looking for a place to give to help support kids that are in need, it's a great opportunity. And then hopefully, Drew, you and I get some time to hang out, maybe get a workout in. But appreciate you again being on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Nate.